Welcome to my EDU 597 Gender and Educational Leadership Artifact video assignment. My name is Lia Miller, but you guys will know me as Lia Stang on my course. That's my maiden name. This is my first video I've ever made, so I am a little bit nervous, so we'll see how this goes. As we moved through this course, I've had the opportunity to learn more about gender and leadership and how gendered practices shape our professional opportunities, learning experiences, and everyday interactions. These practices are so embedded in our everyday lives that we sometimes become blind to them. In this video, I'm going to talk about how gender mediates the practices in the high school that I teach at. I have a few general artifacts that I'm going to discuss first before I get into my main artifact. So first, I teach full-time physical education for grades 10 to 12. I'm the only female in our department, and I work with 9 other males. So the conversations that happen and what is more commonly discussed is dominated by more of my male colleagues. Second, our bathrooms are split up by boys and girls in our entire school. We have a couple gender-neutral bathrooms, but I don't think these are very commonly used because they're clearly marked gender-neutral when there are gender-specific boys and girls bathrooms close by. Along with bathrooms, our change rooms are also split up by boys and girls too. Third, our male athletics and our sports team have a team room locker room that they're able to use during their season. However, there isn't one for any of the females or any of the girls' teams in our school. And the last one is sometimes kind of the male colleagues that I work with separate masculine and feminine sports. They talk about the sports they do in their class of boys, but they would not do this with a class of girls. This would be like sports like football and rugby. I've expressed to them that I do these sports actually in the classes I teach, and the girls actually are quite successful and really enjoy them. These conversations have also changed the modifications they think are necessary for girls' classes. For example, one of my male colleagues uses a T-bar, which is a simple tee that you put a ball on top for kind of a slow pitch type game for someone to hit a ball off of, commonly used for really young children. He'll sometimes, well actually quite often, will bring that out for the girls to use that are 16, 17 years old to try and hit a ball from that when they could, and I know they can, hit a ball from simply a pitch from the teacher or for another classmate. So from these 4 examples, it shows how gender is divided in our school and in the department I teach in specifically. Most of these gendered practices were not that obvious to me before taking this class. After having read multiple articles and I've had many discussions with colleagues and classmates online with this class, it has made me kind of a bit more aware of the gendered practices in our school. Most of these practices seem so normal, it's something I grew up with, and they're so embedded in our lives that we are really blind to them. So when it's something that we're used to, and all of these kind of artifacts are leading into the one that I'm going to discuss. Grade 10 PE is mandatory and is a class that all students must take in order to graduate from high school. Students are enrolled in a class based on their gender, so either a boy or a girl. This does not take into account their gender identity, their gender expression. Students are then required to change into their PE clothes in a separate gender changing room despite who they identify with. Bruner discusses gender terms in her article and talks about the social construction of gender. She states, gendered behaviors may have little to do with a given individual's biological sex or sexual orientation. These gendered norms are further emphasized by placing students in classes solely based on gender. What about the students who don't identify as a girl but are still placed in girls' PE classes, and vice versa for boys? How can we accommodate these gender differences in our classes? This artifact on physical education classes being separated based on gender roles places a very influential role in my everyday life. It's the atmosphere I work in, the colleagues I work with, and the students I teach. I was able to explore this artifact by reflecting on my daily experiences and by talking to my male colleagues. I've had multiple students in my classes over the years feel very uncomfortable in the girls' PE class, as I know they do not identify as a girl. I actually received an email at work today from one of our school counselors expressing a student's request to change in a separate room at the beginning and end of class. I also know of boys who do not like sports and competition, but are required to be in a class with other males that may make them feel uncomfortable if they don't fit into this stereotype. Gill and Arnold discussed gender balance in their article. They talked about the historical context of male and female norms. These norms affect our PE classes and what is gender appropriate. Like I've mentioned already, many of the articles we have read throughout this course directly relate to my main artifact. Connell talks about just how much gender influences our society and social surroundings. Weaver and Hightower discuss oppositional gender perspectives for organizing teaching and learning. For example, students need to be matched to their teachers by gender. I teach all grade 10 girls PE, and my male colleagues teach grade 10 boys PE. Why do males need to teach males and females need to teach females? Can't we teach each other and learn from our differences and our similarities? I found an article online which was written by a former professor of mine actually in university, and it explores gender issues in physical education. The most striking part of this article is when the authors Chorney and White state, most researchers believe that segregated physical education classes are much more beneficial than co-education classes, particularly for girls and especially at the high school level. So I found this article actually very interesting to read. What makes my artifact so challenging is that, like Chorney and White stated in their article, segregated PE is actually positive, especially for girls. But throughout this course, we've talked about gender balance and not separating people based on gender or any other minority group. This is what Lumbee talks about in her article, actually. So my question is there a way to accommodate both sides of this artifact, accommodate students, but not just separate them based on gender?